I followed companion planting charts for years. My grandmother, she never had a single chart. While I was losing half my tomatoes to hornworms every summer, her garden fed our entire family. No spray bottle, no bag of fertilizer, no quick trip to the garden center. I finally asked her what she was doing differently. She looked at me like I just asked her why the sky was blue. "The plants tell you," she said. That answer frustrated me for years, until I spent months going through hundreds of real gardener experiences, dug into the actual peer-reviewed science, and found the one thing every companion planting chart leaves out. This is the biology they never show you. Today, I'm walking you through exactly what works, what's overhyped, and the single missing variable that explains why the same plant saves one garden and completely destroys another. Stay with me until the end, because I'm going to share something I've never seen in any companion planting video. A first-year gardener who accidentally ran a side-by-side comparison in her own raised bed and documented every result. It is one of the most honest pieces of gardening evidence I've ever come across. But first, let me show you what's actually happening. I am going to be honest with you. I planted marigolds next to tomatoes for years because every chart told me to. I planted basil thinking it would keep aphids away. I put nasturtiums next to my brassicas and watched cabbage whites land on both plants at the same time. I was not doing it wrong. I was following the advice exactly. Go into any gardening forum right now and you will find this exact pattern. One person says marigolds transformed their entire garden. The next person says they did absolutely nothing. And here's the thing, they're both telling the truth. The charts are not lying, they're just leaving out the most important part. Companion planting is not a list of pairs, it's an ecosystem. And ecosystems have rules that change depending on three things: your region, your timing, and your placement. Miss any one of those three, and the exact same plants that transform a garden in England will fail completely in Lagos or Texas or Melbourne. Nobody is saying this clearly enough, so let me say it clearly. Let me walk you through each one. Variable 1, region and climate. Cool weather companions, carrots, lettuce, chives, will bolt and die next to a heat-loving tomato plant in a tropical climate before they ever provide a single benefit. The advice your favorite gardening channel gives works where they film. It may actively damage your harvest somewhere else. Before you plant any companion, your first question is not what to plant. It is, where am I growing and what season am I actually in? Variable 2, timing. This one cost me 2 full growing seasons before I finally understood it. Everyone talks about nitrogen fixation from beans as a companion benefit. Here's what almost no video explains correctly. That nitrogen does not benefit your current crop, it benefits the next one. The nitrogen is fixed inside root nodules in the soil. It only becomes available after the legume dies and those roots break down in the ground. If you pull the beans out at the end of season, you pull the nitrogen out with them. The correct move is to cut your beans at soil level, never pull the roots, leave them to break down. Then plant your next heavy feeder directly into that ground. That is how nitrogen fixation actually works in a real garden. Almost no one explains it this way. Variable 3, placement. Sweet alyssum is one of the most research-backed companion plants we have. It attracts braconid wasps. Those wasps destroy hornworms. The science is solid and well documented. But I've watched gardener after gardener plant alyssum in the center of their tomato bed and wonder why nothing changes. Alyssum works as a border and understory plant. Buried in the middle, surrounded by taller plants, the beneficial insects it attracts simply cannot navigate through to where your pests are. A gardener I found online planted alyssum in the center of her raised bed for 2 full seasons with no noticeable result. She moved it to the border. Same plant, same garden, same soil, completely different outcome. The plant did not change, the placement did. That is the entire lesson. Now I want to show you what is actually happening underground and in the air around your plants, because once you understand the mechanisms, the whole system starts to make sense in a way no chart can give you. First mechanism: volatile organic compounds. When we say aromatic plants repel pests, we are describing something real, but we are describing it incompletely. What is actually happening is that plants like basil and marigolds release volatile organic compounds into the air that mask the scent signature of your host plants. They do not chase insects away, they make your tomatoes harder to find. But here is where it gets complicated. Insects also use visual cues, and in laboratory settings, scientists tested concentrated compounds for marigolds, far higher concentrations than any garden would ever naturally produce, and got strong, measurable repellent effects. Those concentrations do not exist in your raised bed. This is the explanation for the entire marigold debate. The mechanism is real. The field conditions are unpredictable. Both sides of the argument are correct, and neither side has the full picture. Second mechanism: allelopathy. Allelopathy is the word for what happens when plants release chemicals through their roots that suppress the growth of other plants. Fennel does this to almost everything growing near it, which is why every companion planting chart tells you to grow fennel alone in its own pot. But cucumbers do it too. They suppress neighboring seedlings. Winter rye releases at least 16 different chemicals that inhibit germination. Some of the plants you are placing as companions are quietly competing with everything around them. The line between companion and competitor is not always where the chart says it is. Third mechanism, and this one changes everything. You are not repelling pests, you are building an army. The most sophisticated companion planting strategy is not about keeping pests away from your plants. It is about designing a garden that houses and feeds the predators that eat your pests for you. Sweet alyssum feeds braconid wasps. Braconid wasps lay eggs directly inside tomato hornworms. The eggs hatch inside the hornworm. The larvae eat it from the inside out. By the time you see the damage slowing down, the wasps have already done their work. Now, you've probably seen white eggs clustered on the back of a hornworm before. Most gardeners kill them on sight, thinking they're pest eggs. Those are braconid wasp eggs. That's your entire defense system right there, and most people destroy it before it can work. Do not kill those eggs. They're the most valuable thing in your garden. Borage does something even more nuanced than a simple trap crop. It attracts aphids and simultaneously attracts the insects that feed on aphids. It's a biodiversity anchor. It brings the problem and the solution to the same location at the same time. And amaranth, one of the most overlooked plants in any companion planting conversation, provides habitat for predatory beetles that will range across your entire garden looking for pests. Most gardeners pull amaranth out immediately because it looks like a weed. They are dismantling their own defense squad without knowing it. 3 more plants almost nobody mentions. Chickweed. Pull it out and you lose a natural, living ground cover that keeps soil cool and holds moisture through summer. Amaranth. Edible, visually striking, a habitat for beetles, and strong enough to act as a living trellis for climbing crops. Jerusalem artichoke. Nothing to do with Jerusalem and nothing to do with artichokes, but one of the most effective windbreaks and pollinator magnets you can plant on the boundary of any growing space. The best companion plants are sometimes the ones you've been removing. Now I want to talk about failures. And I mean real ones, not the vague disclaimer at the end of a blog post, but the specific patterns that keep showing up in real gardener experiences and exactly why they happen. If companion planting has not worked for you in the past, you are not doing it wrong. You are missing context that nobody gave you. Let me give it to you now. Failure pattern 1. Trap crops that are treated as set and forget. Nasturtiums as a trap crop for aphids is a real and documented effect, but it requires one step that almost nobody mentions. You have to manage the trap. Nasturtiums attract aphids. If you do not monitor them regularly and remove or destroy the infested growth, you now have a thriving aphid colony growing 10 centimeters from your brassicas. You have not protected your garden. You have fed the problem and given it a staging area. Trap cropping is not a passive strategy. It requires the second step. Failure pattern 2. Regional surprises. Multiple gardeners in Canada have reported that sweet alyssum attracted flea beetles in their conditions, the direct opposite of its intended effect. In certain warm climates, harlequin bugs are drawn to it. Tansy, which appears in many UK companion planting guides as a beneficial plant, is invasive in significant parts of the United States. The same plant can be your strongest companion in one region and an active problem 60 kilometers away. Before you plant anything based on a video, including this one, check your regional agricultural extension service. Not a gardening blog, not a YouTube channel, the extension service that covers your specific growing region. Failure pattern 3. Competition in small spaces. Some companion combinations fail not because the companion plant does nothing, but because it competes. In a small raised bed or a container, water and nutrient competition is a real and significant factor. A companion that produces excellent results in a large open bed can actively stunt your main crop when both are confined to a 4x4 raised bed. Space changes the equation. What works at scale does not automatically work in miniature. I want to show you something on screen now. I built a reference table. Every major companion combination rated honestly. What works, what is overhyped, and what fails in certain conditions. The full table is on screen. Save it. Screenshot it. That is the table I wish had existed when I started. After everything I have just shown you, here is what the evidence consistently supports. French marigold, specifically, planted as a deliberate border, left in the ground for a full growing season. The root exudate suppression of soil nematodes is real, documented, and repeatable, not scattered randomly across a bed, not mixed in with everything else, as a border, French variety, full season in the ground. Sweet alyssum is a border and understory plant. The braconide wasp relationship is one of the most thoroughly documented beneficial insect interactions in all of companion planting research. Plant it where the insects can find it, at the edges, not the center. Garlic intercropped in cucumbers, nutrient synergy and disease suppression backed by commercial growers who run this combination at real market garden scale, not just in backyard trials. And the three sisters, corn, beans, squash. Not because it is ancient tradition, though it is, because every single element has a documented specific function. The corn provides structure, the beans fix nitrogen into the soil, the squash shades the ground, suppresses weeds, and retains moisture. It is the most efficiently engineered planting system ever developed for a small space. It works because it was refined over centuries of actual observation. Now, the most important shift in this entire video. Stop thinking in pairs. Start thinking in guilds. A tomato bed is not tomatoes plus basil. It is tomatoes at the center. Basil is a companion layer around them. Marigolds and nasturtiums forming the outer border, and alyssum and dill at the very edges, feeding the beneficial insect populations that protect the whole system. Every element has a role. The whole system protects itself. That is what my grandmother understood without a single chart in sight. I want to read you something. A first-year gardener growing San Marzanos in a raised bed wrote this after her first season of companion planting with alyssum and nasturtiums. She had run a second bed alongside it without any companions, same soil, same season. Her words, "The alyssum and nasturtium created a green mulch and kept the soil cool all summer long. I had so many pollinators and zero pest issues. I had a comparison bed. Trust me." First year, no prior experience, accidentally ran a controlled comparison. Zero pest issues on the companion bed. That is what thinking in systems produces. And if you want to start today with nothing else changed in your garden, one pod of sweet alyssum placed at the edge of whatever bed you are already growing, that is the single lowest barrier, highest evidence starting point in all of companion planting. No redesign, no new bed, no companion planting chart, just alyssum at the border. Today, that is your first move. My grandmother did not have a companion planting chart. She had decades of watching what the plants were doing, what they were telling her, as she put it. The science has spent the last 50 years catching up to what she already knew. Her garden was a guild. Every plant had a role. The whole system was designed, not by her, but by observation over time to protect itself. That is not folk wisdom anymore. That is peer-reviewed agronomy. The chart is not wrong. It is just the beginning of a much more interesting conversation. Before you go, I put together a complete companion planting reference chart. Every major crop, their best companions, and the reason behind every single decision. No other free chart gives you the why, just the what. It is yours, completely free. You can find the link below. And I want to know, what is your biggest companion planting win? Or better yet, your most spectacular failure? Drop it in the comments. The failures are the ones I actually learn the most from. One more thing. While I was putting this video together, I came across a method that completely changed how I think about growing tomatoes. A method that one documented grower used to pull 267 pounds from just 10 plants in a season that was 25 days shorter than the year before. I have been testing it myself, documenting every stage, the caging, the pruning, the training, all of it. That video is coming. If you want to see whether my results match or completely contradict what the research says, subscribe and hit the bell. You will not want to miss this one.